Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the Toffee Blues Tactic Show, which will be hosted by me for a change because obviously James is hosting so good. They've asked me to host this one and talk about tactics and Everton and possession and attack and metrics and possession and number of passes and XG and all this kind of mad stuff.
Yes, because my tactical knowledge doesn't really go beyond kicking in the goal. It isn't hard.
Yeah, well, looking into the dark art side of the game, I've actually become a bit of a football nerd, and I don't really like saying that, but I will say it amongst these quarters, and it's absolutely fine for me to say that. Other than that, I'm obviously going to welcome in James and Terry. Are you both doing all right?
Yeah, not bad at all, mate. See for all the miserable stuff going around in this city right now.
Yeah. Everything's at least on the football front going well so far. Everyone's fit and healthy so far. Fingers crossed, touch wood, all that good stuff.
Well, that being other than Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who the Echo report could be out until January 2028, I presume that means, because I don't think we'll see him in 2021. But he might be an interesting player to look at in future episodes, seeing how he could possibly fit in the 17. But what we will do is we'll start by the team selection. So obviously Jordan Pickford's been in goal for every game so far this season. Seamus Coleman, Michael Keane, Yerry Mina, Luca Dean makes up the back four. Alan screens the back four, and Hammers, Decore, Gomez and Richarlison plays a flat four, well, a two and then another two in midfield, and then Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been leading the line up front so far for Everton. But I want to start with Alan, and I think he's probably the most interesting new element to this team so far this season, because last season Everton didn't have any protection to the back four. Literally, I'd probably say most of the season, and if not, it was when Morgan Schneiderlin was sold, because in as simplest terms, Morgan Schneiderlin was a holding midfielder and we didn't have anyone post-lockdown, so basically we resorted to missing the midfield out and just hoping that teams would miss their chances, which sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But Alan, I think he's been a really interesting new element to this team. Obviously, he's won lots of the ball back. He's good moving the ball as well, protected the back four. But I think I'll start with Terry for this one. Have you noticed anything new what Alan's give us, which wasn't there last season?
Energy more than anything. He's sort of slotted straight into that Idrissa Gana Gueye type role, hasn't he? Now, Idrissa Gueye didn't play as a strict six. He was in a double pivot for almost his whole time here. Like, most of the time he'd be with Schneiderlin as the six, and he'd just be, basically legging it everywhere, putting tackles in and making ball recoveries. That's the kind of role I thought Alan would be in. I thought we'd go for someone else in a more conventional six role. But no, Alan's ball recovery is pressing as well. It's caught him out a couple of times, but he's pressing quite high. But he is quite far and away the best tackler in the whole side. He recovers the ball better than anyone else, and he pressures the ball better than most of the team. So just that sort of dynamism and energy is what I'd say he's added, which was completely lacking when he wasn't there.
Definitely, I think Decore as well. I think you talk about Alan being the best tackler, but Decore can't be far behind. I think he adds a bit of that as well.
Yeah, I think what I've been really impressed with this season with Everton's midfield is the general mobility of the team. I think last season we really struggled to get from one end of the pitch to the other, and that was due to mainly the midfield. So we were missing the midfield out a lot. We were getting the ball out wide a lot of crosses. I think last season we completed the fewest passes per cross. So basically we were just getting the ball to Luca Dean, Bernard, whoever in the final third. We were just trying to get the ball in the box with Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. When Carlo took over, I think that had a success because we got points through it, and obviously sort of almost going back to basics really got us points. But then once lockdown came and then when we returned, it really lost its touch. So I felt like this season we needed a lot more composure, a lot more patience on the ball, and that's borne out really in the possession stats, because last season, Everton were 11th in the Premier League for possession, completing well with 49% average possession. That includes Marco Silva as well. I think obviously he was a manager who liked keeping the ball a lot. I think we had a lot of 600 pass games under him. Didn't really go anywhere with it. Carlo, obviously, I think that it went down when Carlo came in and we sat behind the ball a bit more. And Duncan, obviously, we had a lot of 250 pass games with Duncan, just blood and thunder football. But so far this season, we're 7th for possession in the league, just over 50%, which is a sizable improvement on last season. I think Brighton and Spurs were the 2 games where we didn't have much of the ball, but last season we averaged 358 passes per game, and this season it's been 525. Okay, it's a shorter sample size this season, but we really are sort of controlling games a lot more. And the person I'd like to pick out to discuss our comfort in possession would be James Rodriguez. James, I'll go to you on this one. Do you think James has improved our sort of ability to keep the ball a lot better?
Absolutely. I think I did a little piece on James Rodriguez a few days ago where I said his presence in the team, and I've often compared his arrival here since he's been here to Mikel Arteta when he came in, and his ability on the ball composes the other players around him, which not only that he's so good at retaining the ball, his ability to retain the ball and the trust that players have in him make other players more confident on the ball, and that's helping us to retain possession a lot longer, I think.
Yeah, I think the real key thing for me with James is, if you have a look at sort of Everton's attacking directions this season, 46% has gone down the left-hand side, which if you compare that to last season, literally everything went down Luca Dean's side. It's only 46% so far this season, and I think that's mainly because of James' switching of play. So do you think, Terry, this season we've become a lot more of a balanced team in the way we attack than from last season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the change of formation helps as well. Like we've switched from 4-4-2 to like a sort of 4-3-3, and obviously the creative outlet, as you say, is James Rodriguez. So he's the go-to player for the ball now. So you could hear it in the who did we play last? Brighton game. You just heard Coleman all game. James, give it to James, because every time he gets it, he won't lose it, or he'll either be fouled and draw the foul, or he'll find his man, like even in the most unlikely scenarios. But now it's not just a predictable switch. Get the ball at the back, pass it to Luca Dean, move it up to Bernard's or whoever, switch it inside, back out to Bernard's cross. It's what do you do? Like if you shift over to the right, if you're an opposition team, to sort of smother James Rodriguez, you risk him switching it to Richarlison and Luca Dean, 2 of our other good players on the other side. And if you shift the other way, you're leaving James Rodriguez in space, which is just like, you don't want to be doing that, do you? So it has balanced the team completely creatively. And it's just give opposition teams a problem as well on how best to set up against Everton, because there's so much danger from different places. Like there's right across the front 3 and down both flanks, there's attack and threat.
Yeah, I'll come to James first on this question. I'll forget James, Alan and Doucouré, and obviously Ben Godfrey and Olsen. We can't really judge them. We haven't seen them play. Who would you say from the team last season's benefited the most from the new players and the new formation this season?
For me, Gylfi Sigurdsson and Andre Gomez, whoever plays, they seem to play that sort of role in this team. But those are 2 very creative players who are defensively very limited. And the addition of Alan and Doucouré in that midfield 3 alongside them has given them a lot more protection. And you're seeing Gylfi Sigurdsson playing the way he played in his first 2 seasons here again, where he's a lot more relaxed on the ball. He's showing his creative ability. Andre Gomez is also showing his composure on the ball. He doesn't have to do a lot of the dirty work, which neither of those 2 could not only be comfortable doing, but let's be honest, the work rates aren't fantastic, and they were never really those kind of players who were going to muck in and do that. But we're seeing them play into their own strengths again now, and that's really that's benefited us a lot. You've seen Gomez play a lot more like his old self, and Sigurdsson in particular, I think, getting a lot more involved with goals and assists this season. I think that's really benefited us in terms from a creative standpoint.
Yeah, obviously people who follow me on Twitter and on this will know that I'm not a huge Andre Gomez fan. I think sometimes he's a bit lax defensively, and I think sometimes his passing I don't think is incisive enough. But I will admit, I think this season, I think he's probably been one of two real benefactors with the new system. I think he's one because he can just do his job, which is to keep the ball, while Abdoulaye Doucouré drives it forward. And I think the other one for me, and I'll go to Terry on this one, is Seamus Coleman. I think last season he was pretty much a right back who was asked to be a third centre back. I think this time he's basically playing on the opposition's at the edge of the opposition box. Have you noticed anything different about Seamus Coleman this season, and if so, what?
He's got like attacking freedom again. We a lot, like you said, we saw him change to a sort of, auxiliary, third centre back with the 4-4-2 formation. Like when in possession, we switched to 3-4-3, whereas now he's more of an orthodox, full back in a 4-3-3 with a tucked in winger. Now he hasn't suddenly become, his 2015 self where he's bombing up and down the wing and taking everyone else on, but he is going up the pitch more. He does complement James in both ways. I think he assists him in the attacking, side of things. There could be other, fullbacks who do that more, younger fullbacks with more pace who can get up and down the wing a bit quicker. But I think he's ideal for sitting behind James Rodriguez. Did I say Andre Gomez before?
No, you said James.
Oh, did I? I thought. Yeah. James Rodriguez, because he covers him defensively. He works so hard defensively for a player who, let's be honest, he's not going to track back. His position is like a floating 10 coming in from the right-hand side. So that's a defensively weak area of the team. But also, as the club captain and a little bit more experience, he tells James to get in position and to track his man, which I don't think a younger right back would do. So I think he's an ideal fit at the minute to go behind James on both sides of things. He can contribute, attacking-wise. He's not as good as Luca Dean, obviously, or even as good as he used to be himself. But you saw against Crystal Palace, he can still get beyond his marker and put the ball in the box. So he's benefited a lot just from. He's always been an attacking fullback, Seamus. He's learning to be better defensively as he's getting older, which happens to a lot of defenders. But his natural game is to go up and down.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot more myself. I think obviously he previously was basically a right back who was also a winger. I think now obviously Carlo's dropped him back a bit further to sort of help the team out defensively, obviously with James in the team. But I've been a lot more impressed by Seamus this season. I think he got some unfair stick, I think, towards the second half of last season because of...
From me, mainly.
Yeah, from mostly the sort of media mouthpieces he used to churn out every week. I think now he's sort of backing it up with performances. My issue with him previously was he would go in the media, say how bad everything was, and then he would be literally the first culprit for terrible performances.
Yeah, that was my pet peeve.
Yeah, it did my head in too. And I did want a new right back this summer, mainly because I don't rate John Joe Kenny, not as much Seamus. But I think going forward, I think he can be someone for this season. And we can keep him fit in this system. I think he really does suit him.
Yeah,
and then, go on.
Sorry, go on. What I was basically going to say is that I think we've spoke about Alan and Doucouré a lot already on this show, but I think having those two athletic players to provide the cover gives him more license to go forwards as well.
Yeah.
Because we had no protection. He had to help protect the centre-backs last year because the midfield weren't going to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's borne out through. I think the improvements in his game has also coincided with the fact that we've been going down the right a lot more with our attacking sort of moves this season. I think he didn't really get forward a lot last season. He was basically standing next to Keane and Mina for most of the season when he was playing. Obviously, Walcott would play out there or Wobie, and they weren't really sort of effective in the way we play now. So I think with James obviously dominating the game, scoring goals, assists, creating chances, obviously switching the play, and Seamus bombing on, I think that's given us a lot more balance this season, and I think that's the biggest change in our play for me this season, is the balance in which we attack. I think everything was so one-sided and so sort of rigid last season. I feel now we're a lot more of a fluid team to watch, and I feel like that's one of the biggest improvements so far this season, is the sort of the change in our style of play from being a team that just gets crosses in the box to a team with a pattern of play, and I think it's really good to see. Something I wanted to bring up before and I forgot when we were talking about the passing, and I think this is really important, is that last season we had a 78% pass completion rate, which really, if we're comparing it, that's basically the same pass completion rate as Crystal Palace. So after we were really a team last season that got the ball direct a lot. This season it's almost 87%, 86.5%. That's a real good number for a team in the Premier League, and I think the reason I think that's gone down a bit was because of the we went into a bit of a low block against Brighton in the second half. I think if you went before that, it'd be about 90%. So I have to go to Terry. Do you think, I mentioned James before in terms of and be able to keep the ball, but is there anything else you think that has helped us be so much better in possession this season?
It's going to sound like an easy answer, but better players. Like it's like James. You know, you can tell when you just watch the game, he's a class apart from everyone else. Like, he doesn't lose the ball ever. Like, you can probably count on your hand how many times he's lost the ball in the games he's played so far. But then you add to that as well, like Doucouré, people point out, like, Doucouré's lost the ball a few times. Going, yeah, it sticks out because he doesn't most of the time. He's really good at retaining the ball. So is Alan. But James is the main one. I always remember, I mean, not as good as Rodriguez, obviously, but Stephen Pienaar had a role like that in the David Moyes teams. Under pressure, when you're trying to recycle and retain the ball, give it to Pienaar, and he'll either move the ball on or he'll get fouled and win the set piece for you. And I think we're using James in that sort of same role. And as you touched on before, you know, other players whose performances dropped massively last season have picked up again, who were good ball players. Like Gylfi Sigurdsson has got the ability to be a fantastic ball player. And Andre Gomez, we all know that's the reason everyone loves him, because he's so smooth and silky on the ball that it sort of lets people forgive a lot of his other sins. But yeah, we've got good footballers, good ball players. What we didn't have was the strength and athleticism side of things. And now that we've addressed that, it's sort of the rising tide has lifted all ships. So the better footballers are allowed to play better football now, in a tired cliche.
Yeah, so obviously I think we're better in possession, we're better creating chances, and I think something that this isn't just a 2021 season thing, but more of a Carlo Ancelotti thing, is how brilliant we are at set pieces. Obviously, I want to come first defending set pieces. Have we noticed our brilliant sort of shape in defending crosses into the box? It's inexplicable. I think it's like 3 blockers at the back and 2 to meet it. I'll go to James with this. Have you noticed the new set piece routine?
I haven't, to be honest. And of course, I think we conceded a goal from a corner against Crystal Palace, didn't we? Check Kiate. But I mean, I think that maybe that sort of blindsided me from the fact that we've been defending set piece as well. But I've not necessarily paid much attention to our defensive set pieces. I've just been grateful that we haven't been conceding loads like we were under Marco Silva, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really been noticeable. I think Gary Neville during the Spurs game commented on it, saying how unorthodox it was. It's literally something. It's normally have a straight line, but this time there's an offside trap going on. There's all kinds going on. I'm just trying to get an image up so I can explain it properly. But basically, we are a lot better at meeting the ball from set pieces, and so far this season, we have apparently scored 5 goals from set pieces. So I think that's something really positive that we're scoring a lot more goals from set pieces. I'll go to Terry on this one. You obviously Roberto Martinez will be hating the fact we're scoring so many set piece goals, but have you noticed an improvement in our set piece routines?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just quickly before I go on to the attack, that the defence, I only noticed it when Gary Neville pointed it out. It is interesting. Like, it's not, you don't see other teams doing it, but it's a massive improvement because, as James said, we got to stop conceding because under Marco Silva, getting a corner for the opposition was as good as getting a penalty because we just kept shipping goals constantly. And he sorted that right out. And it's clearly a coaching thing that he sorted out. It wasn't a personnel thing. It's the same defenders. But on attacking, I've thought for like a couple of years, why aren't we what we are now, the best like set-piece attacking team in the league? Because we've got Gylfi Sigurdsson, we've got Luka Dean, now we've got James Rodriguez, and we've got players in the team like Yerry Mina, less or so Michael Keane until recently, but good, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, good attackers of the ball with the head. And we just, Yerry Mina scored, until the last match, he'd scored a header off a set piece in 2 games. 3 if you were to count the one that was ruled out for for something. It wasn't offside, but ruled out for something against Sheffield United. We've got good set piece attackers in the team like Mina, and we've got good set piece takers like Sigurdsson and Dean and whoever else. We're finally starting to see the benefit of that. We're starting to score consistently from corners, score consistently from set pieces. The good, the very, very best teams like the Liverpools, not less so City because they're not set up for that. But the Liverpools will always score from set pieces because they've got the best players in the league and they're the best team in the league. Outside of that, you look who's got specialists, and it should have been us all along. And finally, a manager has probably sat down and went, "How do you never score? How do you never score from corners? Because you've got Sigurdsson taking them, Dean taking them on the other side, and Yerry Mina and Michael Keane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin standing in the box." And it's just been addressed like that. I think we're dangerous every time we get a corner. I'm watching it with the expectation of a goal.
I'm feeling confident now we get a corner.
Yeah, whenever we get a corner, I think good chance this. I feel now the way other teams must have felt whenever they got one against us under Marco Silva. I feel like we're good for a goal.
No, it's a bit like, I think it was like this when, obviously, I wasn't around then, but when Joe Royle was the manager and we had Duncan Ferguson in the box and Andy Hinchcliffe whipping them in. Yeah, it's a bit like in the 90s when Andy Hinchcliffe had a corner, you whip it into Duncan Ferguson. It felt like, for fans in Goodison at that time, they sort of said it felt as good as getting a penalty sometimes.
Yeah. I'm going to bring up an agenda and say, look at Burnley, look at Stoke of old. Half of their goals come from set pieces.
It's not one of Owen's shows. It's not one of
really important parts of the game. Don't let Roberto. Yeah, well, you've got to look at it and you've got to say Roberto Martinez was wrong.
Don't practice your set pieces.
Playing percentage.
Our Paul was finished with him when he said that. He literally, that was when our Paul's wanted him dead ever since he heard that.
Since what?
The don't practice corners
because set pieces and training.
Yeah, don't practice set pieces because you only get them a certain amount of times during the match. And Paul just basically washed his hands of Martinez when he heard that and said, "How can a professional manager in the Premier League say something as stupid as that?" And to be honest,
I've got up here the sort of like an image of our set piece routine against Tottenham. We've done it pretty much every game since, but it's basically a mix between man marking and zonal. So we've got 4 at the front, which is Sigurd. I can't even see who it is because it's blurry, but 4 at the front, which is to meet the ball essentially, and then 4 man marking at the back to sort of, if you get a pass there, you attract the runners. So it looks unorthodox, but it's pretty simple really. Players there to meet the ball or players there to stop one of the opposition winning the ball. It's worked. I don't think we've conceded many, apart from the Palace game, you say. It looks unorthodox, but obviously it's something that it's working. And then I just want to finish this sort of video talking about our centre-backs, because we can talk about Calvert-Lewin and his goals. It's one-touch finishing in the box. It comes from brilliant build-up play and him getting in the right positions. I think we can all agree. But I think Yerry Mina and Michael Keane, the blocking these two goes through is ridiculous. I think if it weren't for how dominant we've been in games, I think they would lead the blocks and the interceptions this season because they've been so good. I think I will go to James on this. Michael Keane, Yerry Mina, been impressive, haven't he?
Yeah, especially Michael Keane, I'd say. I think he's been absolutely excellent. Yerry Mina, I think there's been times where I thought he's looked a bit off, but mostly very good. But Michael Keane's been excellent. I think in particular, he's been brilliant. And I think it's good because we've needed two centre-backs to really turn up lately because of the mistakes from the man behind him.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot in this show about how brilliant and innovative and creative we've been so far this season. But for me, the most impressive half an hour for Everton this season was home to Brighton the other week. The last half an hour, we just headed everything out the box, went in the air, Dom chased it. Even Carlos said in the last half an hour we employed a low block, and I think that's finally me just saying I'm not willing to take any criticism from this manager ever. He used the word low block talking about Everton. Terry, you know how happy that makes me feel. Now talk about Michael Keane and how brilliant he's been.
Do you know what? I've been back and forth on Michael Keane. And after his first season, I was one of the people who was, in Keane's camp going, no, we haven't seen the best of him. He's been injured. He's been, misused and, well, especially injured. He had an injury on and off, didn't he, throughout the whole season? And then his second season, and how many? Have we had him 3? This is fourth.
This is fourth, yeah.
Yeah. So after his second season, I sort of went, you know what, I was wrong, and I went off him. And I'd been off him last season until Carlo Ancelotti came in, and much like Calvert-Lewin has, and Mason Holgate has, he's just become a different player under this manager. And I don't know whether it's confidence thing, I don't know whether it's a clear instruction thing, whether it's he's a tactical thing where we were playing in a style now that suits him, but he's turned into a quality player. He's suddenly he's scoring more goals with his head than Yerry Mina is. Who'd have predicted that? Because Keane at one point had the worst 50 pence head I've ever known, and defensively he speaks for himself. There was a prevailing sort of opinion, and I added it myself, that it's only any good if you're going to play Owen's low block. He's only ever any good if you're sitting on the edge of your own box getting battered by a better team, and he'll just head everything away and defend like that. But if you ever want to be on the front foot, if you ever want to control a game, he's useless, he's nervous. Look at the pass for the the Carabao Cup game, whatever it's called, against West Ham.
I nearly called it the Milk Cup.
The Milk Cup.
The Worthington Cup. Look at the pass he did for that. For Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's the type of pass people used to laud John Stones for. I'm sure Owen didn't. But that was quality. That was like Beckenbauer type pass, just little chip over the top to set the striker free. Wow, he's become a different player. And if you can keep this form up, brilliant. Because as far as I'm concerned, and I've said this to you guys, off camera, if you've been brought in by this manager or you've signed a new contract under this manager, then for me, you're one of their players. Then I don't think of Michael Keane now as a Ronald Koeman buy. When you look at the squad and go, well, it's a patchwork of everyone's players. If you've had a contract given to you under this manager, you're one of Carlo's men. So I look at it and go, right, Dom, Richarlison, Keane, Anthony Gordon, obviously the new players that have been bought, they're all Carlo's men. I'm pretty sure Luca Dean will get one soon as well. That's his squad, and he clearly trusts Keane enough to give him a fire, have him up until 2025 and build his defence around him. So that's good enough for me. This is a manager who's seen some of the best defenders ever in football. This manager coached Maldini and Nesta and people like that. So he knows a centre-back when he sees one, and he trusts Michael Keane. So I think the jury is now in on Keane. and it's positive.
Historically, I was a fan of Michael Keane when we bought him because I'm a big fan of centre-backs for Burnley, and I thought he's just going to organise us straight away. He'll know how to defend, he'll know how to take the sting out of games, and he'll be brilliant. It's only now we're really seeing that. I think he struggled at times. I think Silva's suicidal high line didn't help him, I must admit. Koeman just spending half the time on the golf course and really coaching like Sean Dyche didn't help him. I think Sam Allardyce, it should have really suited him under Sam Allardyce, but we got battered that much. He didn't really seem to help him. I think now he's got a good balance. A manager who's given him confidence for the first time since Sean Dyche, and obviously I think going forward he's probably our number one centre back at the moment, and I don't think anyone can really argue with that with his form. I think Mason Holgate was, but I think Carlo, I think if you look back on interviews, he's always name dropped Michael Keane when he talks about defenders. So I think Michael Keane going forward will be our number one centre back, I think. Yeah, so I think we've all enjoyed that, talking about Everton's tactics so far. I mean, if we'd been getting beat, we probably wouldn't enjoy it. But obviously, thanks to Terry, thanks to James for joining me today, and look around what else the Toffee Blues are doing on social media and on YouTube, and we'll see you later.